Hey, dreamers, welcome back to your Dream Coach podcast, where we are going to dive into the mindset, habits, and strategies that help you build a life and business that you love. Well, I'm Shayla Wey, and today we're going to talk about something that affects everything: your business, your relationships, your goals, and that is your relationship with money. And full disclosure, I am not a financial expert, but here's what I know is that I have worked with so many entrepreneurs, small business owners, and dreamers that feel stuck financially, not because they aren't talented or hardworking, but because of how they think about money. And I know this firsthand because I've had to do the work myself. And what I found is that your mindset around money determines your success more than the numbers in your bank account. And so today we're breaking down the ways that your money mindset might be holding you back, and more importantly, how to shift it so you can step into more financial freedom and abundance. And so I want to start with this idea is that you see money as scarce instead of abundant. And if that's the case, I know for me, for a long time, I believed money was something I had to hold on to tightly. I was afraid to spend, afraid to invest, and always worried there wouldn't be enough. And what I found is that this scarcity mindset actually creates lack. And when you believe that there's not enough, you operate from fear, saying no to opportunities, underpricing your services, and even making decisions that keep you playing small. So, shifting to an abundance mindset where you believe money is a tool that flows to you and through you, that changed everything for me. I hear it time and time again, especially with coaching clients, that they have that limited belief that the amount of money they make is that's it, that's all. And I'm reminded by certain circles of influence that I get to be around that there's not a shortage of resources when it comes to money. We can make a lot of money in different ways. There's not a shortage of that. We just need to shift our mindset from a place of we can't be told by someone what we're worth. And when you undercharge somebody, it's because you feel unworthy. And one of the biggest blocks that I see, especially with small business owners, is undercharging. I used to struggle with this too. I think, who am I to charge more? Or what if people can't afford it? But here's what I found is that when you charge based on your worth, regardless of what the business is, right? I mean, obviously, if we're selling, products and things like that, we have to be mindful of that. But if we're in a service based industry, we need to think rather than just what we think the people would pay, because we attract clients who respect and value you. And so if you don't believe that your work is worth more, no one else really will either. And obviously we want to be mindful of not to overcharge, just to be overcharging just because, but making sure that we're not letting that scarcity mindset hold us back. Because obviously with some of my coaching clients, there's industry price points, and that isn't in their control. But there's a lot of ways that we can use that abundance mindset to scale our business. So maybe, for example, you're a realtor and the commissions are set for a certain price point. You can't actually change that. But there is the opportunity when we go to abundance mindset of, well, how do we scale the business so that we are closing more deals, right? So it's not necessarily always in our control in that way, but there's always a way to think more abundance versus scarcity. You can equate hard work with wealth. And I know that I grew up with that belief that making money had to be hard, that success required struggle, long hours, and constant hustle. But what I've realized is that money flows where value is created. And it's not always about working harder, it's about working smarter. Now, as I say that, I don't believe that any entrepreneur should just work 2 hours a week. I mean, truly, I do believe that, from my experience especially, is that when I'm still in my business, I'm fulfilled, I'm impacting. But what I've learned is that I want to focus on the impact over the effort. And I want to put my time and energy where I'm still working hard, but I'm working in a way that's making an impact, that's allowing me to work smarter. And that's when I made that shift where things really started to shift for me financially. The other thing I've noticed is that oftentimes we avoid looking at our finances. For years, I almost, I see this sometimes where people kind of avoid checking bank statements. I think for myself, I almost overlooked it. And even though I did this often too much, I was almost afraid to see what I'd see, even though I was well aware that I was never in a place where I was not worried about how I was going to feed myself. But having a lot of my experience being in sales and always being very commission focused and being an entrepreneur, there wasn't necessarily a guarantee in my income ever really. But what I had to do was just empower myself that there's a lot of control when action is taken. And so what I realized is that if I ignored some of my business planning or ignored kind of taking control of my finances, that was the better route. And what I found is that clarity equals confidence. And what I teach so much from my experience now with coaching clients is that there should never be that fear if we have a plan, if we're taking action. That's what gives us confidence. And so when I started to actually track income, expenses, financial goals, I felt more empowered because I actually knew where I was going. And I see this a lot where people don't really want to know the numbers. This might seem surprising, but I've had a lot of initial consultations with people where they actually don't know their goals. And that is the first thing we need to know when we're running a business is, well, what are the facts? And this is one of the exercises I do with a lot of clients is, well, let's make a decision based on the facts, not the feelings, because we can feel certain ways. And I've talked about this before, but if we know our numbers, it doesn't just help you grow, it removes the fear that comes from any financial uncertainty. And we've also I've noticed that we can feel guilty about wanting more money. And I really struggle with this. And this one hits home for many people. I used to believe that wanting more money made me greedy or selfish. But what I've learned is that money is a magnifier. And this was a lesson I learned many years ago is that if you're a generous person, having more money just allows you to give more. If you want to create more impact, having more money gives you the resources to do that. And why not shoot big, right? This podcast is all about being that dream coach and going, shooting for the moon, right? Shooting for the moon, shooting for the stars, dreaming big because we get one life on this planet. Why not? And so I've learned to release any guilt around wealth, which has allowed me to actually pursue building a strong business and helping others to do the same with confidence. Sometimes we can fear success as much as we can fear failure. And when I heard that years ago, that one surprised me. I was like, what do you mean people can be fearful of success? And I was like, oh my gosh, that is me. I focused so much on that fear of failure. But in hindsight, I was actually really a little nervous on creating a lot of success for myself. What would that look like? What would people think of me? I should just be grateful for what I have. And I thought I was just afraid of failing, right? But deep down, I realized I was also afraid of what success would mean. More responsibility, higher expectations, feeling overwhelmed, a new level of pressure. But I found is that success doesn't create stress. Resisting success does. So the more I embraced the idea that I was meant for more, the more aligned my actions became. And sometimes, for a long time, I made decisions based solely on money, whether to, say yes to a client, invest in my business. But what I've realized is that when you let money dictate every decision, you can stay stuck in survival mode. And so the most successful people I know make decisions based on opportunity, alignment, and long term vision, not just immediate gain, financial gain. And I often will tell people that if they are in the right place, they're in alignment, they've got a good vision, and they're really growing their business through, and I use the word like through your heart, like if you're really in alignment with where you are, the money will follow because people will feel that. And it doesn't matter what type of business you are, right? You've heard that phrase that people don't care how much you know. They care how much they don't care how much you know. They care how much you care, right? And people can feel that in sales industries, in service industries, right? In working with your team. And we want to make sure that we are in alignment so that we can gain that financial opportunity, but doing it in a way that is truly in alignment with who we are and where we want to go. And when I started to invest more in myself, right? I see this a lot too, this limiting belief of not investing in ourselves. And I've been investing in myself, whether it's different conferences, events, coaches, programs, because when I started to do that, it was a game changer for me. I used to hesitate to spend money on coaching, courses, or just business growth in general because I saw it as an expense. And what I have found is that investing in yourself has the highest return. Every time I stretch myself financially to invest in knowledge, mentorship, skills, it's always paid off exponentially. And the moment I stopped seeing personal growth as a luxury and started treating it as a necessity, my business grew in ways I never expected. And when I'm onboarding a coaching client, this is often one of the first things that we have to reframe is that coaching is an investment. When you have a business coach, giving you an opportunity to be held accountable, come up for air, allow you to, reflect on what's going well, where are you moving forward to, your business will grow exponentially because you have somebody from the outside supporting you grow yourself, your team, and ultimately your business. Now, when you associate money with stress instead of freedom, I know that for a long time, money felt heavy, like a constant source of worry. But what I've learned is that money isn't actually stressful. It's how we think about it. And when I started seeing money as a tool for freedom instead of something to stress over, I made better decisions. I felt less pressure and I actually started enjoying my financial journey. And one of the things that I'll use as a reference or a story, something I learned early in my 20s at a conference was reframing this idea of money and your relationship with money as a friend. And I use this analogy a ton with coaching clients because it's a really good way to simplify that feeling with money. And I'll often ask the client is if money was a friend, if money was a person, what is your relationship with that friend? Is this a friend that you ignore, you take advantage of, you don't even really know? Or is this a friend that you spend a lot of time with, you really appreciate? And what's interesting is that when we have that perspective, we actually can shift how we feel and how we look at our friend money. And if you haven't defined what enough means for you, this was a huge wake up call for me. I used to think I needed more, 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 but I never stopped to define what enough actually looked like for me. And I kind of got to this place where I started to feel that more money equal just more things. And it was really fun in my 20s and early 30s to have a goal and achieve it. But then I got to this place where I really wanted to get clear on what my vision was. And what I was really going after was that consistent fulfillment and growth. And that just shifted for me as I grew my success and as I grew my own personal growth in my business. And what I have found is that when you have a clear vision of what financial success means for you, you stop chasing endless numbers and you start building a life that actually aligns with your values and your goals. And so if you have been feeling stuck financially, I encourage you to reflect on which of these beliefs might be holding you back. Your relationship with money can change. And when it does, so will your results. And so here's my challenge for you. Pick one of these money beliefs and just start shifting it this week. Maybe it's raising your prices. Maybe it's learning ways to scale your business. Maybe it's just even tracking your finances or releasing guilt around wanting more. Whatever it is, commit to it and see how your mindset shifts. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and leave a review. It helps more people break free from limiting money beliefs and steps into financial abundance. And just remember, your dreams are worth investing in. Your success is worth believing in, and money is simply a tool to get you there. I'll see you next time on Your Dream Coach podcast.